Let's get into some Arthur Smith stuff. He did an interview, like I said, with the Steelers YouTube channel over the weekend, and he had some things to say about Kenny Pickett. Now, the top one is from this most recent interview that we're talking about. It says, first off, there's a relationship that's got to be built between me and Kenny. There's a trust that's got to be built daily and goes both ways. I've got to earn Kenny's trust and vice versa as we build this offense and all the things we want to work on. And we want him to work on and take command of this offense. And then the bottom quote here, this is from 2022 when the Steelers played the Falcons in Kenny's rookie year. And this is what Smith had to say about Kenny before that matchup. He's a very smart player. So you can see that growth. There's a lot of things that's happened, and I think the thing that goes unnoticed is how different these pockets are from college, and that's the thing you can never replicate, or you never can replicate in practice. Continue to talk about the increased difficulty of throwing under fire at the NFL level. Yeah, he didn't really say much here. Let's just be honest. I think he acknowledged Kenny Pickett is heading into this offseason as the QB1. We'll say that from the top quote there. And then the bottom one, I think he's just respecting his opponent. He did, whenever he was the Falcons head coach, that offseason where Kenny was going through the draft process, and it was like Kenny, Malik Willis, Desmond Ridder, all those guys were going through the combine and stuff. I mean, there are reports out there. You could even check on this. Smith was doing his due diligence on Pickett. Like, he went to Pickett's like pro day. I think met with him at least one time, maybe two times. So there's familiarity there. There was interest there before the draft. And then, yeah, we've got to go up against the Falcons two times over the last, year and a half. Because going back to 2022, met them in the regular season. And then Pickett lit them up in the preseason for 2023. I don't know, man. I don't think this. Some people are taking this and running with it. Like, oh man, Pickett's, he's guaranteed. He's locked in to the QB1 spot, which I do think he's going to be getting the benefit of the doubt from Mike Tomlin and the Steelers organization. Like, it is Kenny Pickett's job to lose. But I think people are acting like Arthur Smith is like so gung-ho about Kenny Pickett, and like, yeah, I don't know. I just think this is what he needed to say, because if he said anything else, that would be causing some red flags. But I do think he likes Kenny Pickett. I don't think he's got a problem with him. But yeah, I just think this is not too big of a story. Not too big of a storyline here. And you guys know how I feel about Kenny Pickett. Like, I want him to have the job. I want him to do good. But I also want us to bring back Mason Rudolph and have that competition to keep Kenny in check and have him earn the spot for 2024. But speaking of Arthur Smith, there were a lot of complaints that happened over the course of the last year and how he ran the Falcons offense. Many have said that he didn't get his playmakers the ball enough. Right? Did not get his playmakers the ball enough. And there are some stats that may debunk that a little bit. And the guys we're talking about is Bijan Robinson, Kyle Pitts, and Drake London. But look at what my man Colin J. Phillips brings up on Twitter. Najee and Jaylen Warren in 2023 only had 4 more carries than a combined Bijan Robinson and Tyler Algier backfield for the Falcons. That ain't anything crazy. Drake London's 2023 targets, 110. Pickens' 2023 targets, 106. Not too far off, huh? The wide receiver 1 for the Falcons and the wide receiver 1 for the Steelers, basically same amount of targets. In fact, the Falcons wide receiver 1 and Drake London had 4 more than Pickens. Pitts in 2023 had 90 targets. Deontay in 2023, 87 targets in 3 less games. I think there's many ways you could look at this. Could he be getting his playmakers the ball more? Sure, 100%. Weren't we saying the same thing about George Pickens, though, last year? And even like Jaylen Warren? Man, we got to get Jaylen Warren the ball more. Deontay. There were some games he would go out there unnoticed. Got to give him the ball more. But we were dealing with some ups and downs with our quarterback play last year, right? I think Kenny Pickett did do a lot of good things, and I've mentioned those: the fourth quarter, game-winning drives, not throwing the picks, taking care of the ball, but he left more to be desired. And what can we say about the Falcons quarterback situation? The same thing to an extent. Ritter and Heineke, those dudes weren't as clutch as Kenny Pickett. They weren't winning games like Kenny Pickett, but they left more to be desired. So that may have a hand into why Drake London didn't get as many targets or didn't have as much production as you would like from your top 5 pick. Bijan Robinson. Now, I will say with him, I think it's a little bit of a different story. Arthur Smith didn't use him in the red zone like he probably should have, but also the reasoning behind it, we can understand. You look at this bottom quote right here. Some of the criticism in the first half of the season last year was valid, especially with Bijan Robinson's usage in the red zone. And this is from an ESPN reporter, Rothstein, an ESPN Falcons reporter. He noted that Smith, however, wanted to preserve the Falcons' rookie running back for the long haul. That's very understandable, right? We almost do the same thing with Najee Harris, but not completely on purpose. I think Najee Harris does it to himself sometimes, where he's just not the same running back in the first half of the season, but really heats up as the weather gets colder. But yeah, look. Last sentence, a lot of head coaches, Mike Tomlin, ration their young player snaps to avoid the rookie wall. I don't think it's that crazy of a theory or that crazy of a thing to do. But fantasy owners, people that drafted Bijan Robinson in the first round of their fantasy leagues, yes, they are upset. And you know that Bijan Robinson could have done a lot more last year. But at the same time, I saw some stat that with his 1,400 scrimmage yards from scrimmage, he was like one of the top 12 players in the league last year from total yards per scrimmage standpoint. That's not bad. That's not bad. Could Bijan have been better? Sure, but it's only his rookie year. How many times do we see running backs where their best year is their rookie year and they're not able to keep it up for the long haul because of how much usage they had in year one? So maybe Arthur Smith was doing Bijan Robinson a little bit of a favor. And then here's some more quotes on it. This is again from ESPN's Falcons reporter, Rothstein. Says some of it was not great play calling, to be very blunt, but some of it too was the fact that their quarterback Desmond Ridder turns the ball over a ton and turns the ball over in the red zone more than any other quarterback in the NFL. There's only so much that Arthur Smith can do about that, he said. And while there's definite questions about the passing game, part of the answer, many of them, was the quality play at the quarterback position. Smith called the plays, but he had an offensive coordinator and quarterbacks coach as well. Like I said, I'm focused more on what Smith did as an offensive coordinator with the Tennessee Titans. Didn't have the greatest of head coaching tenures with the Atlanta Falcons. Also wasn't the worst either. 3, 7, and 10 seasons. We've seen worse, right? We've seen worse. It was a bad division, but the Falcons, until like the last month of these last 3 seasons, would be in the mix to make the playoffs and win the division. We could say that. It's not like some of these disasters we've seen with Adam Gase or Hugh Jackson with the Browns. But when Arthur Smith was an OC with the Tennessee Titans, he was putting up top 5 offensive numbers out there with his guys, with a Ryan Tannehill at quarterback. And you know how I feel about Ryan Tannehill. He's not a franchise type of guy. But Arthur Smith, whenever he was calling plays, Tannehill did look like a franchise guy for a hot minute. But yeah, those were a couple things on Arthur Smith I wanted to bring up here. Just food for thought, right? Food for thought. Yeah, he probably could have got Drake London the ball more, featured him more, just like we could have featured Pickens more. But also, it comes down to the players. Yeah, could he have gotten Bijan the ball more in the red zone? But if Desmond Ridder, like the reporter said, isn't throwing picks when they get into the opponent's 20, maybe Bijan has a few more touchdowns. He has a few more yards. But still, let's not act like Bijan wasn't productive last year. 1,400 yards and 8 touchdowns. 1,400 yards from scrimmage and 8 total touchdowns. Nothing wrong with that at all. And they had a Tyler Algier, almost like we have Najee Harris and Jaylen Warren. Like, Tyler Algier is legit. You want to get him the ball still. So having a running back duo of Bijan Robinson and Tyler Algier, it ain't a bad idea. Like, just because you're not making Bijan Robinson the bell cow and giving him every carry, like, you're preserving him. Maybe Arthur Smith again. He was doing Bijan a little bit of a favor.